Well, here we are again, folks. So proud to be with you today. This is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. I've got a little quote here from Dwight Moody. I'm in a little Bible institute called Titus Baptist Seminary out of LaGrange, Georgia. And it is a little private seminary that anybody can get in. Very, very inexpensive. You can do it online. Anywhere in the world, you can do it online. And I would recommend that you look into it. Titus Baptist Seminary. You can find that under www.faithlagrange, and that's dot, and then you can find that, the Faith LaGrange Church in LaGrange, Georgia. You can find this seminary. Anyway, in our historical studies, which we're in right now, we're studying men of the past, men of old. Men that actually rode on horseback and went from town to town and place to place. And, I can see some absolute, horrendous love and fun in that. To enter into a town, just to drive. I like to drive to little towns in Kentucky. And just walk down the street and just visit and say, I went to Berea, Kentucky, a year or two back, and knocked some doors, and just said, hey, I'm an evangelist, and I thought I'd ask you a question or two. If you died right now, would you go to heaven? You know what's funny? Down in old Scaffold Cane, down in the woods, way down off in the creek areas, I found people, yes, we'd go to heaven. Yes, we'd go to heaven. Yes, we'd go to heaven. Yes, we follow the Lord. Yes, we go to a little church right down here on the corner. And you find that in the country folk. Got the corn garden out there, and now pretty much in the front yard, and some of those when they went up in the mountains, they got the cornfield out there. Some of them that I know frequented a little bit with making some liquor and stuff. But you know what? God knows who a person is, what they are, and who they are. And God knows that making liquor is not the unpardonable sin. And a man's got to feed his family. And I guess God could make another way if the man could see clear to that, and some have, and some haven't. But we're not going to fault a man in the sense of the word that he's got to feed his family. Above all things, have fervent love among yourselves, for love will cover a multitude of sins. 1 Peter 4:8. Love will cover a multitude of sins. Dwight Moody went through his life knowing that life was not exactly for him the easiest thing. Life was not the easiest thing for anybody in this whole world. Man's days are few and full of trouble. Yet, his love for others made his life worth living. And because he didn't live it for himself, he lived it for others. And by living for others, he was happy. Because he could go and he could see happiness. And he could walk away from a house. Here's a person that says, you say, if you died right now, would you go to heaven? And this person says, well, I don't know. And I said, would you like to know? And they say, yeah. And so you tell them about Jesus, and they say, God, I'm a sinner. Forgive me of my sin. Come in my heart and save my soul. And you leave that property and you go down the road. You may never, ever, not ever see that person again on this earth, but you'll see him in heaven. But you leave with peace of heart, peace of mind, joy. And when you come home from one of those excursions, man, you're happy. Now, the same excursion I could go on. I could go on a camping trip. And we do that. Hey, camping trips to me are places to witness. They're fertile ground. Sow seed. Bring it up if you can. Do what you can do. Is there any word that evokes more feeling in us? Is there any more desired trait, more cherished quality, or more noble virtue than to love? That is it. That's the top of the line. Love is the top of the line. It's right there at the top. Hey, to go from Georgia to Kentucky and knock on a door and ask somebody in love if they died right now, would they go to heaven, is a great feat and a great fun. And you're going to come home with peace and joy. It don't matter if it's raining. If I was over there just on a camping trip and it's pouring down rain, I'm not going to have any happiness in that. But my happiness is not in the things. It's in what we do with the things, what we do with our time. To some, it's the ultimate virtue toward which all other qualities point. That's what love is. It's the top virtue to which all other things point to. The epitome. Mr. Moody was a notable preacher. He was just like you and I, though. He picked his education up from preaching and teaching. That's where I got mine. Most Christian writers seem to regard love as an epitome or virtue, but the highest and most of all encompassing fruits of the Spirit is love. This is it. It's uncompassable. It's incompassable. And it's the top of the line. It is the ultimate virtue. To others, it is the end of a quest of virtue, a journey that is begun with self-control and with progressiveness upward through gentleness, faithfulness, and so forth until it bursts through joy into glorious infinity of God's very own nature. 1 John 4:8. Hey, God is love. God is love. And in Him, there is nothing else but love. There is no hate. Well, you say, Brother Peter, what if I sin? I do great sin. God said, I love you enough to forgive you. Just ask me, say, God, forgive me. I forgive you. And maybe you'll learn a lesson from that and don't do that same thing again. And still, to others, love is the fountainhead from which all other aspects of moral goodness flow, either directly or sequentially. Love is the ultimate end. That is the peak. That is the pinnacle. That is the cross on top of the steeple. All are in agreement, however, that love is the supreme characteristic of God. As the Apostle John put it, God is love. 1 John 4:8. We looked at that a minute ago. He has a word here called substantially, and defines the original Greek language of the New Testament as agape. God's fruit of love gives itself away generously, purely, with no motive other than to express God's nature. I have met this person that says, "What are you doing over here?" "I'm over here witnessing." "Well, are you getting paid?" Yeah. It'll be in heaven when I get paid. It won't be here on the earth. What you mean, you come over here and you drove over here and you spent your money and your car and your gas and you drove 200 miles and to come out and witness? Yes. And you're not getting paid? No. But your soul is important. Are you saved? Are you going to heaven? I will drive 200 miles to knock on your door and ask you if you're going to heaven. And give you the opportunity to know that you can escape hell by me doing this. And it's worth it for a soul. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. I got a question to ask myself and you. Would I drive 200 miles to knock on the door and ask a man to save, and I would not walk over on the other side of my fence and ask my neighbor if he wants to go to heaven? And I have done that. I've asked my neighbors. There isn't a neighbor around here that doesn't know that Brother Peter's a Christian, that Brother Peter's on his way to heaven, and he'll help you any way he can help you. And if he can, he'd love to get you in church. Galatians 5:22 and 23. The fruit of the Spirit begins with love. There are 9 graces spoken of. And of those 9, Paul puts love at the head of the list. Love is the first thing. The fruit. The first thing. The first in the precious cluster of fruit. Just picture these 9 fruits of the Spirit as a cluster of grapes. Have you ever bought a fresh cluster of grapes and they were actually good ones? Of late, it's been difficult to find a real good grape. I believe the stores nowadays are buying what's the cheapest, and they're not the best. But a good grape, put a good grape in your mouth, man, when you bit down, you know you got something. And good fruit. Someone has said that all the other 8 can be put into terms of love. Joy is love exalting. Peace is love in repose. Long-suffering is love on trial. Gentleness is love in society. Goodness is love in action. Faith is love on the battlefield. Meekness is love at school, and temperance is love in training. So it is love all the way. Love at the top, love at the bottom, love in the middle, and always along down the list of grace, if we only just brought forth the fruit of the Spirit. What a world we have. Man, would you have no desire to do evil? Talking in the language of Dwight Moody 100 years ago, saying, men, talking to the men in the church, sitting in the church as our preacher would look out And there would be, say, 200, 300 people in the church, and half or more would be men. And say, men, would you have no desire to do evil? Don't have a desire to do evil, but have a desire to love. Excuse me. Wow. Have a desire to love. One of the greatest champions that ever walked the United States of America was Dwight Moody. And that's the end of Dwight Moody's little excerpt that I was reading here out of one of the books. We're going to look at A.W. Tozer. Now, A.W. Tozer was one of the greatest preachers of the past century. He said, though I speak with the tongues of men and angels, and have not charity, which is love, I am become as sounding brass and a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy, and understand all mystery and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, and have not charity, which is love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, which is love, it profiteth me nothing. Charity and love suffereth long, and is kind. Charity, the end of which is love, and envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, it is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinking no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never fails, never faileth. But whatsoever there be prophecies, they shall fail. And where there shall be tongues, they shall cease. And where there is knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. Hey, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Wow. Whew. Man, we need some men today. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as I am known. And now abideth faith, hope, charity, these three, but the greatest is charity or love. Let me tell you something. This is 1 Corinthians 13 out of the Holy Bible. And he is talking about, right now we see darkly. On that morning, when we lay this body in the grave, and we meet Jesus face to face, we will see then, not darkly or dimly, we'll see in the light. One of the puzzling questions likely to turn up sooner or later to vex the seeking Christian is how he can fulfill the scriptural command to love God with all his heart and his neighbor as himself. He wants to, but he cannot. That delightful wells of feeling simply will not flow. How can I love by commandment? To find our way out of the shadows and into the cheerful sunlight We need only to know that there are two kinds of love: the love of feeling and the love of willing. The one lies in the emotions of the other and in the will. The love the Bible enjoys is not the love of feeling. It is the love of willing. The willed tender of the heart. For these two happy phrases I am indebted to another. Religion lies in the will, and so does righteousness. The will is the automatic pilot that keeps the soul on course. The will, not the feeling, determines moral direction. The root of all evil in human nature is the corruptness of the will. The prodigal son took his first step upward from the pigsty when he said, "I will arise, and I will go to my father," as he had once willingly and willed to leave his father's house. Now he's going to be his will to return. And the love of God with all our hearts, we must first of all will to do so. He should repent from our lack of love and determine from this moment on to make God the object of our devotion. We shall soon find our great delight that our feelings are beginning to move in the direction of the willed tendency of the heart. Our emotion will become disciplined. Our direction, we shall begin to taste the piercing sweetness of the love of Christ. The whole life, like a delicate instrument, will be turned to sing the praises of Him who loved us and washed us from our sins. He is our only, He is our sins in His own blood. But first of all, we must will. For the will is the master of the heart. Signed, A.W. Tozer. May God put another window in His mansion this day for Him leaving this writing for you and I to study, for you and I to read the emotion this man put into this piece, for you and I to see the love that he shed to put on paper what he had in his heart and in his mind, that several years later we were able to glean from it, as we are the living Word, the Bible. And wow, this is astounding for me that I'm able to read behind these great men. And Miriam Shaw and the Unchanging Thing and the Holy Bible, and Shakespeare said some things, and I don't know if Shakespeare was a Bible man or not, but I do know that he did quote some things. And E.W. Kenyon, we're going to read some, and Bernard Clairvaux, we're going to read some of the things that he wrote, and different people. C.H. Spurgeon, I have some of his sermons. I have several big books of his notes and his sermons, and they are wonderful. And Billy Graham, some things Billy Graham has said, and C.H. Spurgeon again, as we go through our book. We have some authors unknown. And when you read an author unknown, say, Lord, you know who the author was. Attribute this to him. This is what love is. Love is attributing love is stronger than death. And it's attributing to that person what they had. Paul Tillich said love is stronger than death. And John Wesley, wow, one of the preachers of old that started out with the Methodist movement, which was a great and godly movement in its day. Elizabeth Coolidge and Eugenia Price. Now, I knew some of the Prices in Tennessee, and which actually Brother Dolphus was probably close at one time. A kind of he was a passing friend, because I didn't get to see him only in revivals. But a great, great orator, one of the greatest orators that ever lived. Spoke fast. He was the kind of guy that spoke over 3,000 words in 30 minutes. And I know not where his island left. The fronded palms in air. I only know I cannot drift beyond his love and care. John Greenleaf Whittier, a poet. My daddy loved poetry. And I never read poetry, I don't think of my daddy. And I read a lot of poetry. And a lot of poetry is good. John Bunyan, another guy from the past. John Bunyan, for love, for love. This is Amy Carmichael. Father of spirits, this my sovereign plea, I bring again and yet again to thee. Fulfill me now with love, that I may know a daily inflow, daily overflow. For love, my Lord, was crucified. With cords of love, he bound me in his side. Pure, pour through me now. I yield myself to thee. O love that leads my Lord to Calvary. Amy Carmichael. Wow. This human being had a rude awakening in the body and found the Lord, and it was worth it all for her to be able to say these things. And C.S. Lewis, a quieter, deeper love. Love is distinct from being in love. It's not merely a feeling. It is a deep unity maintained by the will and the deliberate strength, by habit, reinforced by in the grace which both partners ask and receive from God, especially those in marriage. They can have the love for each other even as though moments when they do not like each other. As you love yourself even when you do not like yourself. They can retain this love even when each would easily, if they allowed themselves, be in love with someone else. Being in love first moved them to promise fidelity. This quota, love, enables them to keep the promise. It is on this love that the engine of marriage is run. Being in love was the explosion that started it. C.S. Lewis. Perhaps not all exactly scriptural, but the end of love becomes scriptural. Love sought is good, but given on sight is better. You can seek it, but to give it is better. We know when Jesus taught in John 15:9-17, as the Father hath loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you obey my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have obeyed my Father's commands and remained in his love. I have told you this so that my joy might be in you and that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love hath no man than he lay down his life for his friend. You are my friends, if so, what I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friend. For everything that I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. And then the Father will give you whatever you ask in my name. This is my command: love one another. John 15:9. Wow. The ultimate end of love is we will be redeemed. We will be in heaven with the Lord, and we will receive the reward for every loving act that is done in the Spirit of God. It is a promise from God that what we do and say in him will be known in heaven. Will be known in heaven. As you do on this earth, will be known. You will be known in heaven as you know on this earth. Wow. Do you think maybe we need to all shape up a little bit? Do you think maybe we need to all do more promotion for heaven and live more like we are heavenly bound than we do? Why, definitely we need to do that. So this is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. And as I say, I can't see. I've gone over again. I'm 33 minutes. So I will see you next time. If you've never said, Jesus, forgive me of my sin, come in my heart and save my soul, you need to do that. That's called salvation, and you need that first of anything. See you next time. Bye-bye.